Greetings, everyone. Greetings, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm Dr. Gary L. White. Can't tell you how excited I am to have everyone on. Let's get some people on right now. We've got welcome to my YouTube viewers. Welcome to my TikTok viewers. I'm Dr. Gary L. White. Got a very exciting discussion tonight around grandparenting, a different type of conversation. So welcome. I'll get people on. Leah, glad to see you on for this conversation here. My YouTube people coming in, I thank you for joining the Dr. G.L. White Show. We have an amazing discussion tonight. Second chance at love when grandparents meet, grandparenting meets the unhealed parenting process. You all, we are going to take a moment on today, you all, to really get into this discussion tonight. Grandparenting, the second time around, can a grandparent heal what a parent broke? And so, you all, we have to take a look at that. So let me get some people on. Glad to have you on. To my YouTube viewers, glad to have you all on today. This is an important conversation, laying this out, because when we really began to think about this conversation, there's a fundamental question that we're going to examine tonight. If you are not a good parent, right? Does that mean by default that you're not going to be a good grandparent? Is it possible to be a good grandparent, but you were not a good parent? You all, these are some heavy conversations that we're going to have. Brianna, glad to have you all on. Troy, glad to have you on. Bob Jackson, glad to have you on. Y'all, this is the discussion of discussions. Tonight conversation may be one of the most important conversations that we've ever had. So I need you all to come on and you all get people on. So we are examining that question. Can someone be a better grandparent than they were a parent? You all, these are real live conversations. For those of you who saw the notice on Facebook, y'all get on here. Especially if you are a parent, but you didn't have that great relationship with your parent and you're feeling some type of way about them now wanting to be a grandparent. Or maybe there's someone you're watching, this grandmother or this grandfather of yours, they're being this great grandparent. They're being this outstanding grandparent, but what they're doing does not reflect the experience that you had with them. You all, these are some real live conversations. What happens when that person who disappointed you as a child becomes the greatest source of joy for your own child? And now, for some reason, you find yourself feeling some type of way. But the question is, can people change? Right? So I'm glad to have you all on. I'm Dr. Gary O. White. Welcome to the Dr. G.O. White Show, TikTok Live, YouTube Live. Y'all, we are going to get into this conversation because it's important whether or not someone can change, whether or not you may find yourself, because of the feelings you may have had with your own parent, you find yourself feeling some type of way and have become a type of gatekeeper to your parents' access to your children. Right? So these are the family dynamics. Again, I'm Dr. Gary O. White, Associate Professor at Clark Atlanta University, the Whitney M. Young Junior School of Social Work, where I teach several classes around family at the master's level, understanding African American families. We do it all. I've been working in the realm of fatherhood and family dynamics for 30 years. So everything I'm unpacking here, these dynamics, we are taking a closer look at them. And you all, these are some important conversations that we've got to have. Here's a reality. We see more grandparents that have become primary parents, that we've not seen this since the 80s with the crack epidemic that came in, and suddenly many grandparents found themselves reparenting. But we've had several years since then, so something has happened. So you all, I want to bring everyone in because a grandparent simply, when we ask that question, can parents change? Or is grandparenthood simply another opportunity to repeat old patterns? That's one of the things that sometimes makes someone who didn't have the best relationship with their parent be a little resistant around allowing their parent, who they have that experience with access to their children. But what happens when your child all of a sudden wants to develop that relationship with that grandparent? Are you getting in the way? So that's an honest discussion, something that we have to chew on, the possibility of when we pose that question. And that's an honest question. Can someone become a better grandparent than they were a parent? Would you trust your children as a parent if you know the experience that you had? Right. So these are some real live discussions and dialogue that we're going to get into. Y'all tell somebody. You may know someone that has not had the best relationship, and now you are a grandparent. I mean, you're trying to be involved, but you're trying to understand, why are you being limited? Why are you being hindered? Right. So the question that we have to ponder in this is, should they get another chance? That's the question we have to ponder. Do they really change? Right. So tonight we're talking about healing across 3 generations. That's the grandparent, that's the parent, and that's the child. That's across 3 generations. That's what I'm unpacking. So this isn't about blaming a parent. This isn't about the shaming the grandparent. Tonight conversation isn't about protecting children. We are creating an opportunity for healing where healing is possible. Everyone knows that Dr. Gary White, that's me. All my work is around restoring the Black family, strengthening the Black family, healing the Black family, repairing the family, all families. Everything you all hear me talk about the Black family, it actually applies to all groups. This is just the area of the group that I spend a great deal of focus on. So this is an important conversation because we have learned that after decades, this is what I've learned, after decades of working with families in the realm of social work as a practitioner, as a therapist, as an educator, people don't stop becoming parents just because their children are adults, and they don't stop needing healing simply because they become grandparents. So we're setting the tone here. Right? This is why this is important. And y'all, just a point of personal privilege that everyone knows, why this discussion, Dr. White, someone might say, you've been doing this for almost a year now. Why all of a sudden is there a focus on grandparents? Why? Because on March 25th of 2026, I became a grandparent. So this is one of my favorite cups here. I want to share this. This is me as a first-time father, when my oldest child was born in 1994. This is one of my Father's Day gifts, y'all. And then on the second half, now Papa, and there I am holding my granddaughter. And so so it only makes sense as practitioners, we bring that lived experience in. So this is where that came from. So becoming a grandparent is not just a role. This is why we're going to have this conversation. For those of you who are joining me on TikTok, I want to say welcome. Glad to see you. Y'all, give me a thumbs up if you're joining me for the first time. Y'all, give me a heart, give me a thumbs up, give me a shout out. Let me know if you're joining me for the first time. If you get a chance to, go to my YouTube page, go to my TikToks, and you'll see all the discussions that I've had. But this one here is personal. Again, because grandparenting is not just a role. Right? It's more than that, you all. It's a mirror, right? An interesting concept. It's a second chance. Being a grandparent is a second chance. And I can tell y'all this already, that my granddaughter is, she just made 3 months old. And I'm already, every time I hold her, everything that I'm doing, I'm reflecting back on when all 3 of my children were born. And there are things that I'm doing differently. Yes, there are things that my wife and I that we have learned differently, right? So grandparents is not just a role, it's a reminder too, right? It reminds us of some of the changes and some of the things that we've gotten right, some of the things that we didn't do as right? For some, grandparenting is not just a role, it's a painful reckoning, right? And for some grandparents, and I need you all to hear this, for some grandparents, holding the grandchild is the first time they truly understand what they should have given their own children. Now, that right there, for those of you who are watching, what am I getting at here? I'm saying that For some, holding a grandchild for the first time, where you were socialized, for the men, you were socialized to be a provider, to be a giver, to be a doer. And now you're in a generation where now as men that we recognize that the beingness, being present, holding, nurturing our sons and our daughters is equally as important. So these are the realities. These are the things that we're jumping in on today, y'all. So let's get into this. So here's my central question that we're going to that we're going to examine here today. Grandparenthood does not erase parenthood, right? So the relationship between the grandparent and the grandchild must, and most often, for the most part, travel through the relationship between the parent and the adult child. So, yes, this is what makes it three generations. So, grandparenting has to go through the parent to get access, or meaningful access to the child. So, when there are wounds, when there are hurt, when there are unresolved traumas, that grandparent getting access to that children becomes problematic. So I'm going to give you all a heads up right now. By the end of the time we get to this, but I'm going to tell you the end result right now, that this healing process, for you adults who are watching this healing process between you and your parent, it has to get some functional level to allow this access to occur. And should it occur, these are the things that are a reality, right? Your grandchildren usually don't choose whether or not they get access to you. The parents do. So we have a vested interest in this. Now, this healing process that I'm talking about has multi-generational implications. Now, there's some authenticity that we have to put out here that I think is really important. There are some wounds, y'all, that we need to say this right now. There's some wounds that are cut that are too deep, that being the type of grandparent that you want to be, without that accountability, without taking that ownership, without really examining the impact of that, there's some childhood traumas that are so deep that that healing process may never get to the level necessary to have that access. Here's what I mean: issues of child maltreatment, issues of molestation, and many of the more egregious things that happen that you remember that as a child. And so you're going to see in this discussion that there are some parents who are very conscious about protecting their children from their parent. And so these are some honest discussions that we're going to have. Glad to have you on, William. Glad to have you on, Jimmy. Glad to have you on. Glad to have you all join here. So I'm Dr. Gary O. White, and this is what we have to do and get into this discussion. Now, why adult children become gatekeepers? And this is one of the realities that I want us to kind of recognize and realize here, right? That most adult children are not trying to punish the grandparent. They're trying to protect their children from what they're experiencing. And so let me ask you this, for those of you, is it wrong? Is it wrong for a parent who didn't have the best relationship with their parent? Is it wrong for them being a gatekeeper? Is it wrong denying that access? That's a question that we have to take a look at. Glad to have you on, Johnny. Good to see you on, Jimmy. Glad to have you on. If that, this is the part I'm examining here in terms of the gatekeeper, why the adult children become gatekeepers. And so, there are questions that parents who engage in this, there's some honest questions that they have to really ponder, right? They're going to ask questions like, will my child experience what I experienced? Right. So you all, if you go to my podcast, my TikTok, you all will see I've had the discussion about childhood traumas and how it shows up, and the triggers associated with it. So it's a question that an adult parent has to really ponder. Will my children experience what I experience? Has that anything and embedded in that is the question, has anything actually changed? right? So you know your father, you know your mother, you got that strained relationship, and now you're asking yourself, well, has anything changed? If that child, that adult child, have not seen a change, that the same behavior that they experience, that they watch the same things that you've said, you're still saying those things, and then they're asking that adult parent who is met with the decision of whether or not they're going to let their child get access to the grandparent. They're going to ask, has anything actually changed? Is my daddy still doing the same thing? Is my mama still doing the same thing? Right? Can I trust them now? Right. So when we're dealing with that hurt, I mean, these are honest discussions. So again, because they're connected to why some parents may be gatekeepers. Now, y'all hold on towards the end of this show, because I promise you there are recommendations that I'm going to give towards that healing process. So this is important. So other questions, parents who may find themselves engaged in gatekeeping: will you disappoint my child the way you disappointed me? Now, anybody who knows in the work that I've been doing around parental involvement and access, I've always, with working with fathers and improving the co-parenting relationship, and in helping fathers improve access to their children, I have been very, very clear. You can do more damage to a child entering their life and then leaving than to have never been in their life at all. Let me say that again. You could do more damage to a child entering their life and then leaving them than to have never been in their life at all. So, as a parent who's hesitant and may find themselves in some degree of gatekeeping, they know and they remember what it was like to have you come and then leave. And so they have to do some assessment of whether or not they'll be disappointed, whether or not there's a risk that their child are going to be disappointed by you, like you disappointed them, right? So notice these are all trust questions, not revenge questions. These are honest discussions. So let me ask you, if you're joining, if you're watching, are these reasonable questions? If you think these are reasonable questions, or what other questions do you think a parent considering gatekeeping, what other things do you think they have to consider? And you sharing that, I think that's going to be helpful for those who are watching this. I think this is going to be helpful for those for them as well. You know, what other things that may they consider? Now, if you are a grandparent and you are simply not understanding why, you got to go through all this to see your grandchild, right? You got to experience all this in order for this. Every time you want to see your child, there's a whole bunch of mess to take place. Well, what I've offered up to you, for those of you who are viewing, I just gave you some questions that a parent who may find themselves engaged in gatekeeping. These are all trust questions that they have to consider. Now, what do y'all think about that? What are these authentic questions? Are these real life questions that parents have to consider? How difficult is that? Right? How difficult is that to allow your child, if you don't have that relationship, if you didn't have a good relationship with your parent, is it difficult? Should you be in the way? Should you have that resentment? I'd love to hear y'all responses on that, because I think those are some real honest and authentic questions that we have to take a look at. Now, I'm going to tell you, with grandparents, those who are trying to seek a second chance, an opportunity to be a better grandparent than they were a parent. And believe it or not, you all, that's real. That's absolutely, it's so real. It's just as real of a parent who has multiple children. The way you parented your first child is different from the way you parented your third child. So the truth is, people do evolve. Whether or not they evolve enough, or whether or not their evolution has been significant enough that it's noticeable, that's a different thing. But people do evolve, right? So, but there are different types of grandparents who are seeking a second chance. And y'all look at it. I'm gonna give y'all 5 different types of grandparents that I think who are trying to seek a second chance. The first one, and y'all take note of this because your parent or you may be that parent. There's the remorseful grandparent. That's right, the remorseful grandparent, right? This is a person that they know they failed. They're accepting responsibility. They're not making excuses. They realize that they made mistakes, and they're capable of healing. These parents, they see what they've done. They understand the hurt. These type of grandparents seeking the second chance, they are remorseful because they've realized that in their wisdom that they should have done it differently. Alex, glad to have you on. Jimmy Washington, glad to have you on. To my YouTube folks, y'all looking at the back, a bunch of books and writings and stuff. I'm working on some articles right now. So just on a side note, just to stop, the life of a professor, we're always writing. And so so I'm going live, but those who watching me on YouTube, you seeing books and stuff in the background because this is the writing room right now. So you have the remorseful parent, right? So they see it, they know they failed, or they know they didn't do the best job. They're accepting responsibility. They're not making excuses for what they've done. They're capable of healing. My aunt in Monroe, Louisiana, Frankie May. My aunt Monroe, Louisiana, she has this saying, y'all, and I think I'm gonna put this on the door. Not only if it's relevant for parents, not only is it relevant for grandparents, the saying that Frankie May has is also relevant even for my students. Hell, I might even get a shirt. My aunt Frankie May always says, if you could do better, do better. That's all she ever said. You know, if anything you present, an outfit or whatever, clothes, if you cook something, she said, do you like it? But if you can do better, do better. And that's a very sensible question, a comment. If you can do better, do better. And that's an authentic question we all have to ask ourselves as parents. When it comes to our involvement with our children, when it comes to our parenting, when it comes to doing school activities, when it comes to supporting our children, I think it's a good question that if you can do better, she simply says, a good statement. She says, if you can do better, then do better. So knock out a whole article with a simple phrase, if you can do better, do better. So the remorseful grandparent is one type of grandparent that is out seeking a second chance. But you have this other grandparent that I can tell you, I call it the revisionist grandparent. Yeah, y'all heard it. You almost know where I'm going with this. The revisionist grandparent, right? This is a narrative. This is a story, right? The revisionist grandparent, they're trying to get a second chance. However, there's a type of denial that they're having on not only what they've done or didn't do, there's a denial of the impact of their presence, their absence, what they've done or what they didn't do. There's a reality that exists there. So the revisionist parent may say things like, well, look, I wasn't that bad, or they will rewrite the story. No, I was there. I raised y'all, right? And now your reality or your experience is not fitting with what they're saying. So they're minimizing the pain. Oh, I was gone, but it wasn't that bad, right? You blowing this whole thing out of proportion, right? When the revisionist parent and grandparent is trying to start this relationship, the revisionist, and you might be a revisionist grandparent, that you are the one or might find yourself triggering your adult child. Revisionist grandparent may have more difficulty connecting with the grandchildren because of the denial, because of taking the position, because they don't believe that the pain they caused was that deep. So that's what makes the healing process difficult. So the revisionist grandparent, y'all, again, I'm giving y'all some advice here. This year, a conversation about grandparenting is a multi-generational conversation. And so the bottom line, we all have an opportunity. If we can do better, like Frankie may say, then we do better. That meant that I might realize that, I did okay with the children. Someone might say to themselves, I did okay with my children, but I realized I could have did better. Now you're a grandparent, well then do better. So the revisionist grandparent, that's the second type of my 5. The revisionist grandparent, I'm telling you right now, as long as you are minimizing, denying, blaming, rewriting the history, telling revisionist history, you're going to trigger that parent and your access. You may be doing your own self harm. So that's number 2. Number 3, the performance grandparent. Y'all, the performance grandparent, this year is actually related to even when my conversations about relationships, the social media relationship versus what it really looked like when y'all get home. So that's where I'm going with the performance grandparents, right? These people who are wonderful in public, y'all. I mean, they're the social media posts, the photos, they're doing everything, the gifts at birthdays, and they're holding it out. Holiday appearances are really big, but still you're emotionally unavailable. So I can be a loving person on social media, but when you're home, I'm cold to you. These are the people who create this interesting dynamic. The community loves them because in the public, the photos, the social media, everything they present out, the community loves them. But because they're cold, unavailable, emotionally withdrawn at home, it's not the same experience. So the performance grandparent, the challenge here is that your child sees right through it. Your child, you know that because your adult child is saying, yeah, he doing all that. Yeah, mama she doing all that. But but when she come here, she came into town and didn't even say nothing. These become the type of conversations that on the outside world, everyone loves them. We're talking about grandparenting, the second chance grandparenting. We're really looking at some of the challenges when there was a strained relationship with your adult child. Now it's time to be a grandparent. And will it be different? Now, there is an honest question that you might can ponder even for yourself. How was your relationship with your grandparent? Sometimes, although I'm talking about 3 generations, the grandparent, the adult child, and the grandchild, this is really a conversation about 4 generations, because you as an adult may find yourself saying, I don't even remember seeing my grandparents. I don't even know much about my grandparents. So sometimes these pains, like I said at the beginning, these pains, they're not curses, they're patterns that get repeated on down. No God needed. Good to see you. What's going on, Doc? So the performance grandparent, contemplate that, y'all. The remorseful grandparents, the revisionist grandparent, the performance grandparent, and then you have the competitive grandparent. Number 5 is my favorite, just to let you all know, because I think number 5 is the most important one. But the competitive grandparent attempts to become the favorite. So now, for whatever strange reason, and this here creates a strain as well, I'm going to let y'all know now, that now as a grandparent, you're competing with your child, right? You may be a grandmother competing with your daughter-in-law. You may be a grandfather competing with your son-in-law, right? And so now you're attempting to become the favorite, right? You're undermining the parent. Or you just a grandparent undermining your child and the in-law. right? Or the mother or the father of the child, right? You're undermining the whole thing. You're creating what we call loyalty conflicts. Loyalty conflicts. Your child now all of a sudden it finds themselves dealing with um, loyalty to the parents or loyalty to the grandparents, right? Using gifts and attention, getting activities to gain the emotional control. These are unhealthy. These are unhealthy dynamics. Um, do I really have my doctorate? Who, me? Absolutely, I have my PhD from Clark Atlanta University. No, I don't call myself a doctor. I don't play one on TV. I'm a professor, PhD. No God needed. I appreciate that. But Google me. One of my good friends, Dr. Christopher Bass, who's the Dean of Arts and Sciences at Clark Atlanta University. He once told someone that. He said, Google me. It's in social work, Doc. It's in social work. So the last type of grandparent that you see out there is the transformative grandparent, and this is the most important type of grandparent, of someone trying to reconnect, right? This type of person, that grandparent, that grandmother, grandfather, that person have done the work. They they've gone to therapy. I was they've accepted the responsibility. These are the transformative grandparents, right? They've changed their behavior. They're living their lives differently. At Clark Atlanta University, I teach a theories of leadership administration, and one of the types of leadership, other than fellowship, the transformative leadership is one of my favorite types of leadership approaches. So, a transformative grandparent, it all follows along, right? They're changing behavior. They've changed their behavior. They're living their lives differently, right? These type of grandparents, I'm going to argue, deserve to be seen differently and treated differently, because transformation is demonstrated and not merely declared. And so these type of grandparents, I think, is really important. And I'm going to just pause for a moment. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about my grandparents. So here I am as a new grandparent, but I honestly think I have the best grandparents on the planet. My mom is from Monroe, Louisiana, and the Hartwells in Monroe, Louisiana. My grandparents, Mama Patient and Papa Frank. Crazy about my grandparents as children. My mom called him a dear, but we were crazy about my grandparents. My grandfather, Papa Frank, was a man's man. That man, as my older cousins tell me, that man could build a building and not even use a ruler, right? So just taught me and reflected through the expectations of my mother of us, manhood. On my dad's side, Bobby Darnell White was my grandparents. We called them Big Mama and Big Daddy, right? That's in California, the Whites, Big Mama and Big Daddy, Walter White and Zephyr White. Y'all, my grandfather was about 6'7". My grandmother was about 5'5", right? And so as a result, I have family members. We're of all sizes. But my grandparents, right? You go to my social media, you see I might post them acknowledging them, especially when I became a grandparent. I pulled on my experiences, my recollection, what I seen and what I understood about my own grandparents. And so what I'm saying here, you all, is that our children do the same thing, and you did the same thing, right? So, but we have some realities here that even if you look at those 5 different types of grandparents, some parents do tend to keep their distance, right? Adult children, they remember stuff, you all. They remember who showed up. That's a reality. They remember very well who showed up. They showed up. They remember who didn't show up. Right now, you are a parent, and all of a sudden, and this was for my case too, y'all. I got three beautiful daughters, but when I became a parent, I think every person, if you have a child, you may have found yourself doing this. You found yourself reflecting back on your own experience as a child, right? So they remember, right? Some parents will keep their distance because they remember who showed up, they remember who didn't show up, they remember you remember who protected you. You remember who criticized you. You remember who abandoned you, right? Who embarrassed you. As adults, we remember who we grew up with. Remember who we grew up without. But the memories often don't. We remember all these things, but the pain sometimes will travel through our childhood and into our adulthood. We remember these things, and then they find ourselves showing up in our adulthood. So let us turn the corner. What do you all think about this? At my own point, does it make sense? Invite everyone. I'm going to tell you right now, you all want to see the type of great work that we do with families, teaching family dynamics, teaching the history of African American families, which is what we do at Clark Atlanta University and the Whitney M. Young Junior School of Social Work, where I serve as an associate professor. These are the unique dynamics, the application dynamics that we really take closer look at when we're trying to understand family. Remember, everything that I do is around restoration, building and healing, healing the family. And so I want to push a little bit. Glad to see you on, Dr. T. Glad to have you on. I see you all logging in. It's a great thing. So there's a difference here, y'all. Let's push a little different. My YouTube, I see y'all. Glad to have y'all. There's a difference between forgiveness and trust, right? Y'all, we're turning this corner because I'm identifying all these things, but there's some work that's got to happen. So there's a difference between forgiveness and trust. And this is one of the biggest lessons we have to walk away. Forgiveness is internal, right? Forgiveness is internal, but trust is earned, right? So Dr. T, good to see you. So forgiveness is internal. And I might tell you, and this is a reality, even in relationships, partnerships, and everything else. I can forgive you, but not forget. The importance, learning to forgive someone, you all, it is important for this particular reason. If you are holding it as a burden or like an albatross around your neck, forgiving someone does not mean that you're forgetting, number one, and forgiveness someone there's still consequences that come with it, right? So just because you've taken responsibility, just because you've taken accountability, there's still consequences. So we have a reality that some parents may have forgiven, but the consequences are still living out, right? You can forgive someone and still need to have healthy boundaries in place. And so, but I will say, other than certain wounds that really can't be healed, child maltreatment, child molestation, rape, these things that are egregious, some forms of abandonment that may take more than an individual decision. There's some pains that some adults have engaged in are so deep that my answer to everything is, this is why we've got to see a therapist. This is why, if you go to my YouTube, my podcast, I'm always talking about the need for Black therapists, and I'm always arguing and making the case of why we need to get more families into counseling. Because this work here, these dynamics, if you hold it, or you may not have the ability, the capacity, or the capability to even begin the healing process. I'm going to let y'all in on a little secret. Some adults, they want to make up. They want to do better. They want to communicate better. They want to improve the relationship, but they just don't know how. So I see that to use the analogy, I see that my car is running poorly. I can see all the clinks. I can hear all the sound that's taking place. But just because I know exactly what it is, that does not mean I have the skills to fix it myself. And so that we apply that to our vehicles. We apply that to project management. We apply that to issues with our computers. We apply that to issues for those who are doing coding, but you see it, you completely understand what it is, but you may not have the ability to do that healing or that repairing yourself. And so this is why we make this, right? So the biggest mistake some grandparents make is thinking I deserve access because I'm the family, right? Just because you now have the title of the grandparent, thinking that you now have access just because you're the grandparent, right? Nope. Healthy relationships are built on trust, not the titles. This is why I'm saying forgiveness is eternal, but trust is something earned, you all. So healthy relationships is built on trust. And so if you have made it this far, if you've come this far in that strained dynamic relationship, then that trust work has to begin, you all. And this is an honest thing. Being a grandma or grandpa is a privilege. It's not an entitlement. Now, there's a reality is that no matter how bad of a relationship you might have with your child, you're still the grandmother. That's still your father. That's still the grandparent of your children, no matter what. So that dynamic, no man can undo. But the access, the engagement, the acknowledgement is a man-made thing. And so these are certainly realities. So there's some healthy steps, things that we have to do. Healthy grandparenting begins with healing the parent-adult-child relationship. Y'all, I told you way at the beginning of this short podcast that I was going to move towards these healing steps and things that got to take place here, right? Acknowledge the past. So I'm saying, number one, you've got to acknowledge the past. Recognize that the hurt without becoming defensive. Listen to the adult child's lived experience. Sometimes you have absolutely no idea how your absence or your inconsistency may have impacted your adult child. And now having a child of their own, all these things have certainly have come up. Avoid minimizing or rewriting the history. Y'all heard me say that before. Accountability before access, right? So recognize the hurt without becoming defensive. Being able to listen. Being able to listen to how your adult child experienced you as a child. And so an sincere apology that names a specific behavior is what's really important. I'm not just going to say I apologize. I need to be very specific. I apologize for being inconsistent. I apologize for not being there. I apologize. I realized that I was working so much. I didn't come to any of your recitals. I didn't get a chance to see you play. I apologize. I need you all to listen with empathy. Take the responsibility without the excuse. Seek to understand and not defend. I'm going to tell you. I see you, Dr. T, asking to join. Join me next week. I'm going to bring you on, Dr. T, but DM me your information so I can know you as well. Listen without empathy, right? I need you to seek to understand rather than defend. Stop trying to defend, y'all. Just listen. Good to see you, Meek. Other things in terms of the healing process to improve that grandparent relationship, increase your likelihood when I'm talking about listen with empathy, validate the emotions even if memories differ, right? And this is a very important one in the healing process that I really need you all to understand is that you may have a completely different memory than your adult child, or you may have a completely different memory than your parent have. And so sometimes it becomes important to reconcile that difference. And to my a note to my adult children who are now parents, understand this: your parent may not know all they've done in their presence, in their absence, or in their behavior. They may actually not be aware of it. Now, emotionally, you might say, there's no way on this earth that his ass don't know that when he didn't show up, that no. Bring it into the atmosphere. This is what the healing process begins. This is where the listening with listening with empathy, I think, is important. And respect the adult child's role. This is for you, the grandparent. You need to adult. It's your child, but it's a grown man, a grown woman now. So you have to accept their role. All right, that they're now parents, and they may very well parent different than you. You were raised with spare the rod, spoil the child. And now your child says, I remember the whoopers with the extension cord. I remember being butt ass naked and getting whooped with a strap. And I'm not going to whip my child or discipline my child in that way. Well, you turned out okay. These are the unhealthy conversations. Even though some of them may be filled with laughter, but our children, you might decide to parent differently than what your parent has done. And parents, your adult children may parent differently than you. But because every round goes higher and higher, I think it's important. Number 5, rebuild the trust through consistency. Demonstrate change through your actions, y'all. In both ways. Now, this one here, avoid triangulation, is very important. Never use the grandchildren to repair the relationship. That's what makes it a triangulation. Anthony Jones, good to see you. Never use the grandchildren to repair that relationship. Now you're sending messages to your grandchildren to their parents. No, you need to walk through that valley and stop sending. Don't send your grandchildren through it. And the same here, you'll see in a moment, parents. Don't use your children as weapons or tools in that regard. We have to do the work to create a new relationship. So, grandparents, I'm going to challenge you to practice humility, accept the accountability, respect the boundaries, be patient with the healing process, right? And listen constantly to the behaviors. Begin the rebuilding process and support. Don't compete with your adult children. I think these are important towards the healing process. Now, for my adult children, I have some recommendations, right? For those of you who are just not there yet, I'm going to tell you, protect your children without using them as weapons, right? So with every new child comes a new dynamic. There are things, some of us, the moment you became a parent, like I said, you suddenly remember everything. Right. So now it's like a rush of memories that are coming forward. So children, for parents who are cautious about that dynamic, I understand the need to protect your children, but don't use them as weapons. Look for genuine, sustained change and not the words. And this goes both ways, incidentally. Listen to the behaviors, the genuine change. People learn by what they see, not by what is said. Set healthy communication and relationship boundaries without seeking revenge, right? You've held some of this stuff in, and then you become a parent, and now it's painfully obvious, right? And allow the opportunity for reconciliation when trust has been earned. But I'm going to throw this caveat to the adult children now. Your experience, and this is kind of tricky, you all, your relationship or your experience with your parent is not the experience that the mother or the father of your child has had with your parents. So if you're not careful, you may find yourself turning on the other parent because they don't feel the same way about your parent that you do. So now it's almost like an octagon. Now we have all these different dynamics that are taking place. And so what happens if we're not careful, for those of us who are carrying or walking with that resentment, we have the resentment towards the parent, not realizing it. We're causing the children to have a resentment or a strained or stale or neutral or stoic relationship with the parent, and also emotionally demanding that the parent, the other parent of our child, have that same type of relationship. So this is again why I'm saying that some of these things, they've got to be worked on, right? They've got to be examined. We've got to understand it. Heal your own childhood wounds. I'm going to tell you, as adult children, this is what you need to do, because it's in the best interest of your own children. Remember, there's no such thing as a generational curse, but there are definitely generational patterns. In your unhealed wounds, you can transfer those unhealed wounds onto your children. So allow, you all listen, allow the opportunity for reconciliation when the trust has been earned. That's what I think is most important with the parent grandparent relationships. You might still hold that hurt, but the ultimate goal, heal the parent adult child relationship first. Take that under consideration. Allow the grandparenting to grow from reconciliation, right? Allow the access, not guilt or not out of obligation, but allow that process to begin to take place. Break the cycle. This is what we're talking about, you all, of intergenerational pain. So grandchildren inherit healing instead of the pain or the trauma or the unresolved conflicts. These are the realities, you all, that we must chew on, that we must grapple with, um, and recognize. We're confronted with whether or not grandparents should apologize, right? Um, we have to pause and examine what makes someone emotionally safe around their children. I think these are all important pieces. So for my grandparents, trying to make it happen, I need you to lead with the humility, right? Stop defending yourself. Offer real accountability. Talk about it. Acknowledge the specific behavior. I hurt you, not I'm sorry that you feel that way. That's two separate things. I hurt you when I did this. It's completely different from I'm sorry that you feel that way. Respect the boundary. Healing takes time. Don't rush it just because you are now a grandparent. And most importantly, for parents, this goes up the family tree and down the family tree. Consistency is the most important thing. Children believe behavior, not promises. And so here's what I'm offering up as I kind of wrap this thing up, is that you have to understand that for some of us, our children's relationship with our parent is a direct result of us. We're in the middle. You're in the middle. Your children's relationship with their grandparents is mediated by you. In statistics, and in research, we have this thing called mediating variables and moderating variables. A mediating variable is a variable that says if this variable is present, because this variable is present, it results in the change. Without this variable, then the change would not happen. That's what a mediating variable is in statistics and in research. A moderating variable means that when this variable is present, it strengthens or weakens the relationship. So parents, I'm saying to you all that you are a mediating variable and you are a moderating variable in terms of that relationship between your parents and your children. You are a mediating variable because you are directly responsible for the presence, the absence, or the presence of the relationship with the grandparents, and you are a moderating variable because you have a direct role in terms of the strength of that relationship between your children and your parents. And so I'm offering up this as a reality, but I'm going to close in these areas of saying reconnect with your children first. For those of you who are grandparents, I'm going to say to you, build that while you're trying to build that relationship with your grandchildren. I know because I believe every man makes a personal private promise to himself. those who are attached to the children. I believe every man makes a personal, private promise to himself to be a better parent to to his child than what his parents was to him. Even men and women who had great parents, you still want to do it better. That's the notion of why we say every round goes higher and higher. So my closing recommendations to the adult children: protect without punishing, look for evidence of change, and don't make children choose sides. And more importantly, heal yourself. Allow the redemption when it is earned, when they've gotten there, right? So trauma often creates what I'm calling this protective parenting, right? You become a hyper vigilant. You're hypersensitive about every interaction or engagement, right? Because you don't want your children to experience it. So key takeaways that I'm offering up as we began to move towards the close. I got a couple minutes here. Is that the healthiest families understand something that's very important. Grandparenthood is not about connecting the past. It's about creating a healthier future. All right. So healing flows through our children and on to our grandchildren, just as it flowed through you. So I want to leave you with this. Every family inherits something from the previous generation. Every family inherits something. Some folks might inherit wealth. Some folks might inherit wisdom that's passed down. Some inherit trauma. The question isn't what did you inherit? That's not the question. The real question is, what will stop you with you, right? What will stop with you? That's the real question that we're going to ponder today. What you inherit is one thing, but because I often talk about generational patterns, the question is, what will stop with you, right? What will stop? Will the pain stop with you? Will the silence and not speaking to anybody, will that stop with you? Will the anger stop with you? Will the issues of abandonment, will that stop with you? All the men in the family, that's what the men in the family done. Every man of them will be abandonment issues stop with you. Or will your grandchildren inherit what you never healed from? Because every generation is writing an emotional autobiography of the next for the next generation. So maybe, just maybe, God didn't make you a grandparent simply to spoil grandchildren. Maybe, just maybe, he made you a grandparent to redeem the family. Y'all chew on that. Thank you all for joining me tonight. I hope you all enjoyed the conversation. I hope it was blissful for you. Share this live, Dr. G.L. White Show, right? And invite someone who needs to hear what I've said. Invite someone who needs to get in this space of healing. And remember that the greatest inheritance that we leave our grandchildren is not the money. It is emotionally healthy relationships restored, and trust and legacy and love. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of your family, keep building from one generation to the next. I'm Dr. Gary O. White, Associate Professor at Clark Atlanta University, Whitney and Young Junior School of Social Work. Thank you for joining my podcast. Thank you for joining my TikTok Live. You all go to Dr. G.L. White Show on YouTube. Go to my TikTok Live. Go to my Instagram, the Dr. G.L. White Show. Like, subscribe, and share. Everything I'm talking about is around building, strengthening, and restoring the family, because the most radical and revolutionary thing that you can do, the most radical and revolutionary thing that you can do, not your organizing skills, not your mobilizing skills, not your economic wealth, the most radical and revolutionary thing that you can do is build a strong family. And allow that family, that type of familial wealth, to go from one generation to the next. I'm Dr. Gary O. White. I thank each and every one of you for joining me. And so until next time, you all, for now, look me up, follow me, like, subscribe, and share. Y'all take care, and God bless. To my YouTube family, thank you all for joining me. Hopefully, there was something that was said on today that resonated with you. Hopefully, there was something said today just stood out just enough for you all to share this discussion with your family and your friends. Like it, share it, get it out there. Everything that we're doing is around restoring, strengthening, building the family. So as it relates to this messy background, y'all, I got to get back to writing. So until next week, I'm Dr. Gary O. White, YouTube Live. Y'all take care, and I'll see you then.